Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're your hosts. I am Justin.
And I'm Challee.
This podcast is a space where we explore practical ways to nurture your mind, body, and spirit to create a happier and healthier life.
The content of this podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not establish a therapist-client relationship. If you are experiencing emotional distress or mental health concerns, please seek support from a licensed therapist or a qualified healthcare provider.
Welcome back, everyone. For this episode, we are doing something a little bit different. We recently went to a mental health conference with Kevin Berthia.
Kevin Berthia.
I want to
and
make sure I
Kevin
say it.
Briggs.
And Kevin Briggs. I had no idea who they were. No idea. I was just like, ooh, mental health conference. I love it. And we sat down and they introduced themselves and they showed this iconic picture. Immediately, my heart was just like, there was a very famous image of a man standing on the Golden Gate Bridge on the outside, ready to jump over the rail. Yes, thank you. And a police officer talking with him, and it became a very famous image. And as soon as I saw that, I knew exactly who these people were. And so it was fascinating because we got to listen to both perspectives. And I walked away from that my mind was just blown. It was so good. So we wanted to just talk about that a little bit and talk about what we took away from it, both personally and professionally. And Justin was really good and took notes. My notes are all in my brain, so they're not very good. But he managed to get a few really awesome quotes. So I don't know where do you want to start?
So I think starting out, it was just such a wonderful opportunity to get to hear both sides of it. Being able to understand a little bit more in depth of what had led, both of them, truthfully, what had led both of them to be where they were at. But I think some focus on where Kevin Berthia was of the situation he was in, where with Kevin Briggs, not only part of his job, he's so passionate about it, but it made sense, that he was there. There was a lot that had led up to why Kevin Berthia was there. So getting to just understand why someone may take the steps towards suicide and being able to understand all the things that go into that, because we don't normally get to know those things. We're not normally let in on the things that are leading up to it. And sometimes we don't have the opportunity to know why someone may move forward with suicide. So,
I loved that he started from the beginning.
yes.
Like he was in his 20s when that happened, I believe. And
20s or early 30s, but I'm pretty sure it was 20s, yeah.
Yeah, and he went back to like when it all started, and he went back to pretty much birth and just went from there. And it was just amazing to hear how all of these things just kind of piled on and continued to pile on. So it wasn't a one-time thing, like one-time traumatic thing that happened. It was over his entire life, he had traumas that he went through that eventually led to his thought of jumping off of the bridge.
And to expand on that a little bit, he even had those thoughts of death much earlier than what I ever
Yes,
realized.
that's right.
People may start to experience that. So he talked about having those thoughts. And one of the things that he said was like, everything became about death. And that even started back when he was 5 or 6 years old. He had shared his first attempt and how he had 10 attempts before that famous picture on the bridge where he actually was able to share what was going on. He had 10 attempts before that nobody knew about.
That's the thing, is nobody knew about. So we can talk professionally and personally, but as a mom, and I know he talked about his mom as well, because she didn't know about a lot of this until after he started talking about it. But I was heartbroken for small Kevin just going through that and nobody knowing and him hiding it. And it was heartbreaking. It really made me take a step back and be like, am I doing enough as a mom to make sure like my child isn't going through something?
And so a takeaway from that is, in something that he had shared from it, was just being able to be a listening ear. Like all he wanted to do was to talk about it, but didn't know how.
That was the part that really like resonated with me. And it was because I don't know how to distinguish Kevin by Kevin. So he asked Kevin the police, or no, Kevin the police officer asked him afterwards, what did I do to make you decide to come back over the rail? And he said, you listened. For 93 minutes, you listened. And that sounds like a lot. 93 minutes standing on that bridge, but 93 minutes? I mean, I would give my ear to anyone for 93 minutes.
If that was the result, right.
But that's it. That's all it's all, not that's all he had to do. But the police officer, Kevin, said he used very few words and just listened for 93 minutes. And that is what it took. That is what Kevin needed to come back over the rail.
And Kevin had talked about with the attempts before, it was not that people weren't asking. People had asked what was going on because there were some that nobody knew about at all, but there were also some that like needed potentially like medical intervention or like there was a scene, so something happened, and he still didn't share what was going on, and he didn't know how. And back then he said he grew up in, the 80s and 90s, and there wasn't words for it. There wasn't conversation around this. So it's no blame. There's no blame put anywhere, but it's just the fact that there wasn't a conversation around this. How can you resolve something or work on something when there's not even a conversation started about it? So I think that's a huge piece of what they're doing now is making this a more realistic conversation to have, because it's not just one person that is experiencing this. I think they share the statistics, and it's like 1 in 5 people are having suicidal thoughts. And we have a lot of people on this earth. That's wild to think about.
That is
I don't know
wild to
what
think about.
that then turns into, but that's a lot of people. So that should be a pretty common conversation. I talk to more than 5 people in a day. I have more than 5 people in my family.
Yep.
So thinking about how deep this really does run, thinking about the different layers that went into this of why he was at the point of making that choice, I think is really important. And I was so impressed that he was able to share that. Like you said, it was not just one thing that had happened. It was multiple things throughout his life that just compounded or layered on top of each other. Something he talked about was addiction and gambling addiction, unhealthy relationships had added into that when he had gotten older. But even when he was at a younger age, it was life stressors like being bullied and feeling as though he had the weight of the world on his shoulders.
And he also talked about being adopted and how in the African American community that being adopted outside of your family really wasn't a common thing. So not only did he feel unwanted by his parent, but he felt unwanted by his whole family. Because in that culture, he said that normally someone else, like the baby would stay in that family still. So the fact that he was completely adopted out of the family really affected him as well.
Loss of identity too,
Mm-hmm.
because he was not around people that looked like him. That was one of the biggest things that he had said a couple times throughout it, was until he had met like his biological parent, he had never met someone that looked like him. And that's something that I know for myself, like I've taken for granted. So even that being such a big weight for someone so small at such a young age, that was something that he carried around.
I really took that personally because my brother is adopted and he is Asian. And we grew up in a very small town. And I want to say he was the only person like him in that whole town, definitely in our family. And so that really resonated with me, where I was like, that's so eye-opening.
It's things that we don't always think about.
Well, we take it for granted.
He also shared a quote that I thought was just awesome. Expectations kill all joy. What's your thought on that?
I don't know. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think if I could redo the quote, I might say unrealistic expectations kill all joy.
Okay. You do. So we're always living in a gap of what we want, what we desire, to what can be obtained.
Yep.
I think challenging that is being able to put in some gratitude. It closes that gap of where we are versus what we want. He also had taken a lot of ownership for things that were outside of his control at a young age. And I think that's something that so many people and so many young people can really relate to. especially in the world that we live in now. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of moving pieces, and it can be so easy to pick up everything, especially things we have no control over. I know you being a mom and then working with kids for a while, do you see that often?
I don't know if being a mom has a lot to do with it, but I know that he said something about being responsible. He had a quote. What was it? I know you wrote it down.
Being responsive, but not responsible.
Yes. So he
That was
said that was the police officer, Kevin, that said
yes.
that.
Yep.
That be responsive but not responsible. Professionally, that resonated with me because it's so hard sometimes not to take your work home with you. Especially if you have someone in crisis, you can. So I really appreciated him saying that, because just being told it's okay to not be responsible. You can't be responsible, but you can be responsive. And so that one I think might have been my favorite quote.
It was.
That really?
Yeah, that was the one that I like put exclamation points next to, because I know that professionally for me and personally, I have taken responsibility for things that had nothing to do with me.
Yep.
And it has caused me so much stress, so many anxiety symptoms that were unnecessary. It wasn't mine to hold, but we feel that way. It's very easy to take that on. So that reminder was really nice.
Yeah.
When speaking on like the professional side of it, I think it can be really important to open that up of there's so many things that maybe not just being a therapist, but so many different careers or fields that we take on so much added stress and take it home with us, that it's not just the person trying to assist someone to come back over the rail or someone working through trauma. It can be in so many different areas that we can feel the weight of the world on us.
Yeah.
He also had a quote of that you're never over anything you have not dealt with. What's your thought on that?
I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah, you have to process through things. Otherwise, you just shove it down. So you can't be over it. It's still there. You have to deal with it and process it. And that's what I took away from it, was he never dealt with his feelings as a small child, teenage years. Like, he just kept shoving all of that down, and, and he's a cool guy. So, he was like, I'm cool. I'm fine. I'm over it. Like, and I would have believed him.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't have thought twice. I would have been like, you got this. You're cool. You got this.
And that was what he shared too, was that people in his life did not know what was going on. People, especially back then, didn't know any of the signs because there
Mhm.
was no conversation around it. Now, at least we have some more resources and we can maybe see if someone's withdrawing from social or friends or family or seeing those changes. But back then, it was normal kid things
Mhm.
that and that's where it's tough, especially with children, is that many times they can mimic that. So it's
Yeah.
paying that a closer attention, always making sure we're having good intentions when we're trying to have conversations, and just having the conversation
Mhm.
about how we're actually doing, and not just always taking that like I'm fine as
Yeah.
the answer.
But a lot of the signs were so cryptic. I mean, like, he crashed the car trying to go over the guardrail, or over the cliff, I
Yeah.
think.
Real
But
got in the way. It was the way he said it.
the guardrail, as a parent, like, I don't know that I would even think of, you know what I mean? Like, my rebellious teenager stole a car and went joyriding, and thank God he was okay. I don't know that it ever would have even crossed my mind what he was trying to do. So it's not that people failed him, people ignored things. He was very good at hiding it, which is terrifying as a parent, by the way. Like, seriously, I sat through that whole thing and I'm just like, this is the most terrifying thing to listen to as a parent, because even being in this field, some of the things he explained, I'm like, I don't think I would have taken that as a sign.
Right.
So it was very eye-opening and terrifying, Kevin, if you're listening. It was very terrifying as a mother to listen to it.
I appreciate you sharing that piece and showing up really as human with that, because there is so many professionally, there's so many things that we want to do or think we can do and then almost try to get it down to a science, but humans are still human. And it's sometimes these things go unnoticed, but it can be really tough to try and catch every single thing. So I think as a parent, you sharing that, it can put some people at ease even, of okay, I'm doing my best. And the best is what we can do. The police officer, Kevin, had shared about how this has been his work for so many years. And he also had shared about how it had consumed him for so long, and different parts of his life had fallen apart. He had some health challenges. He had some different things happen within relationships. And it was really interesting to be able to see the opposite side of that. Someone who shows up and does such incredible things for work also has their own things going on too. And their life shows up as well. That was a huge takeaway for me of just realizing that everybody is human.
Also, I was very surprised. So you see that that's a famous picture. It's a very famous picture. I know I've seen it in classes, and I was surprised to learn that that was just coincidence that they snapped a picture. There was, I mean, for lack of better words, there was nothing special about that. There was nothing special about that day. There was nothing special about that person. They just happened to have a helicopter snap a picture of it. But in reality, that was something that Kevin, the police officer, dealt with on the daily. And that blew my mind. I thought that picture was taken because this was like, this never happens. And yeah, I didn't know that the Golden Gate Bridge was,
Notorious for
no,
that.
I had no idea. And so I was really surprised to learn that this was not anything special. This was just another day on the job. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And something that I thought was wonderful was how humble they were with all of this, and the fact that they shared that it was just, oh, this was just a day. It was just random
Mhm.
that the picture got taken and this had blown up this way. And I think it's incredible that it did, because the work that they're doing to be able to make suicide a more realistic and common conversation, to be able to bring awareness to it, that is something that they've put a lot of work into. But there was also some luck that went into that they got that picture taken, that they've been able to have the impact that they do. But it is such meaningful work. And so knowing that before that time, Kevin Berthia didn't want to live, and the opposite side. So like after he made that choice to live, his life had gotten so much better and he had such a purpose. He was able to align with his purpose. And I think that for me, it was really impressive to hear that was the outcome, that he was able to make that choice to live because he had to. And he shared that, and both Kevin shared that Kevin Berthia had to make the decision to live, to come back over that. It was not forced by anybody else. And he was nervous about it when he was on the other side of the rail. He kept on being a bit nervous that someone was going to swoop in. And I don't know if that would have made as big of an impact. He was able to make that choice.
Yes. Yeah, because Kevin, the police officer, said that, your instinct is to grab them and to hold them so they can't jump. But in reality, if they want to, they're going to. So the goal is to help them see that they don't want to. Yeah, this whole thing was like amazing. And then at the end, we got to actually go and like talk to them. I felt like I was talking to a celebrity.
Yeah.
Like I was about to, like we asked for a picture and I wanted to be like, can I have your autograph? Like this is, because it was just so powerful. I mean, I left that and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have told so many people about it.
Yeah.
Like it was so good.
Thinking about it, they kind of are celebrities. And
They are. They were just on the Jennifer Hudson show.
yes, they did say that they
Right?
traveled. It's not even just like nationally here that they've done work. They've gone to other countries as well.
Yes.
So it is impactful work what they're doing, and I feel honored to be able to like share it.
I
Or
know.
to have been able to be there and have the opportunity to witness it and hear the stories that they shared, because for me it made it so much more of a human thing, that it's not just someone who is mentally ill or someone who is really struggling and we notice it. It's not something that is going to be a perfect guideline of that person might be thinking about it. It is someone, he played sports, he had friends, he had family, and he went through some experiences that I know people in my life have of divorce and being bullied. And it's something that made it much more realistic that people are experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to try and share that and have some impact even in a small way, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to be part of the conversation rather than avoiding it.
And we've talked about stigma.
Mhm.
And I love that they go to schools and, they're two really cool, strong men and they talk to teens about this. And I think that is very impactful. And like we have talked about before, there's a stigma around mental health among men. And so I really appreciate that it is two men sharing their story with the world and destigmatizing that.
And we had the opportunity to go to the one that was targeted for mental health professionals. So I'm sure their presentation is different when it's at a school for kids.
I know, I want to go see it now.
Right?
I want to see it all.
And it was not scripted. It was
No.
from the heart.
Yep.
And I think that was just something that was so impressive, that it was passion. They care about making a difference. They care about being able to make this a more common conversation. Their hearts are in it.
Yeah, you can tell.
I mean, goodness, they talked about the fact that they travel like majority of the year doing this, but it's because they're passionate about it. I just think about when I was leaving there, I had thought about it also of like imagining like, what if he didn't get that opportunity? This conversation wouldn't be having. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go. And it, again, back to it was simple. He listened.
Yeah, that's it.
And that had such a big impact. And look what has grown from this.
And 93 minutes. I mean, what is that, like a session and a half?
Right.
Like that's how I break things down. Like 93 minutes, a session and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he needed to come back over the rail.
And change his life.
Yeah.
I mean, because like he said, everything was about death before. I remember him sharing this, and it kind of blew my mind that he said, like, that the cliff that he wanted to drive off of every day going home from school, he passed that and said, that's where I'm going to do it. That's where I'm going to do it. And when that didn't work out, he found the next thing. And that was what his brain was so focused on. And so to have that shift where he was able to make that choice, that changed his life, because his brain was not only focused on the death piece now, he was able to make that choice to live. And I think there was some big power in the fact that nobody did grab him, because that's that instinct. You just want to hear grab. Who
Yeah.
knows if that would have then resulted in another attempt,
Yeah.
because he was out of control. He said this was one of the first times in his life that he was in control. He could make that decision for himself, and he felt in control. Where he had experienced so many different things throughout his life that were outside of his control. I also love that he had shared that even moving forward afterwards, he only saw the picture like once or twice, and then they did a honoring ceremony for Kevin Briggs, in which he also, so humble, didn't even want to participate in. They had to drag him there, pretty much. Same with the other Kevin. His mom had to drag him there to get him there. It was funny. He said, I'm all about anything that's free. So they told me that I was getting something for free. They didn't tell me I was going to a ceremony. What did they? It was like a show ticket or baseball.
No, his mom had said that she won radio tickets.
That's what it was.
Yes. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is the coolest mom ever.
So got him there.
All she had to do was get him there.
And then he was able to, well, he shared his story. And that was the first time that he had shared his story after everything had happened.
And he said that was actually the first time he had seen the police officer, because he had had his head down for most of it. So he was talking to him for 93 minutes, but he said he never saw him. And this was 8 years later, right? Something like that.
A couple years. Yeah.
And he said that he was finally going to see him for the first time.
And that being said, it shows that anybody can have such a really big impact. It does not always have to be a professional. It does not always have to be someone who's in that position. Sometimes we can just lend a listening ear and it might make a difference. One of the things that he said in the very beginning was smile more. And I thought that was so interesting, because he had later in that shared that he didn't smile. He didn't feel as though he had a reason to before. But him smiling more, he sees more smiles. And it's contagious.
Yep.
So being able to share that with someone you may not know who needs it or what an impact that may have. He also talked about with having the conversation, especially with kids, being able to have it be a more normal conversation of what someone may be struggling with or what they may not be so good at, to be able to encourage some of that vulnerability, because he had felt as though there was always a focus on everything that he was doing well, and he always had to kind of uphold that. So
Mhm.
what was Kevin if Kevin wasn't playing sports? Because he was involved in, what did he say, like 4 sports, a sport
Yeah.
every season. Like, he didn't know, or he didn't know how to be in his own skin outside of doing something productive or having a task or being part of another team. Like,
Mhm.
he said that he was great when he could focus on being on the court or being around people that he was involved with. Like, even when he was spending time with the family, he had an identity outside of just himself. But take all of those away, which happens when we get older. He said one of the toughest transitions was going from like finishing high school and not playing high school sports, but didn't want to do like college level sports. That was such a big piece of his identity that then he was just left with, well, who he was underneath that. And
Mhm. It's
he didn't like that
scary.
person. Scary. Yeah.
Yes.
So being able to talk to not only kids, but everybody about like, hey, it's okay if you're not having a great day. We can have those.
Mm.
To just normalize that conversation as well, rather than it always being something that someone is doing, being able to get more in touch with what's underneath that.
I think working with teens, kids and teens, it is hard to have those conversations because you kind of want to tiptoe around things and sugarcoat things. And I know me professionally, because I do work with a lot of kids and teens, it's taken a lot of time to get more comfortable with it. But just being very open and just asking, like, do you have plans to hurt yourself? Do you think about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about dying? Do you have a plan? Those are very uncomfortable questions to ask, but I have noticed that trying to dance around it just does not work. Like, I used to try and like dance around it, and I would say like, "Do you feel safe with yourself?" And they would be like, "What the hell are you talking about, lady?" Like, so I've had you just asking the blunt questions of, "Are you thinking of hurting yourself?"
Because if they are, someone's actually going to finally see that. And if they're not, it's not going to put it in their head. They're just going to simply say no.
Yes, that's the important part too. Thank you for saying that. Is, yeah, if you ask a kid if they're suicidal, it's not gonna make them suicidal.
And that's been the thought for so long. I mean, personally and professionally, like, it has taken so much time to, and for me, I've just more started working with kids, but even with adults, it was really uncomfortable to have that conversation. I found myself dancing around it,
Mhm.
and it was not effective.
Mhm.
I wasn't making any progress with that. So being able to have that conversation, and now I know and I have the reassurance that I'm not putting that thought in someone's head by saying it. If it's there, it's already there. And if it's not, then it's not, probably not the first time they're ever hearing it, because it's something that, I mean, kids talk about a lot. There's the disconnect between kids and adults of being able to talk
Mhm.
about it. But even if then that is the first time they hear about it, that opens up a conversation about it. Again, an uncomfortable conversation, but better to have good information about it.
For sure. And if they're not struggling with it, like you said, 1 in 5, they might have a friend that is.
Hmm. And then they can be a resource for them.
Mhm.
Not that, not that we want every kid to take on the world in that sense, but it normalizes that conversation, and then it can be a trusted person that doesn't judge them or
Mhm.
shame them for it.
Yep.
Because I think when we talk about suicide, there's a lot of shame
Yeah.
that is around it, and stigma, like how we talked about in a previous episode, but stigma is surrounding suicide, and that makes it harder to talk about.
Mm.
So being able to just be more comfortable with that conversation goes such a long way.
Yeah. Cuz I've seen people refer to suicide as like selfish. It's
Yes.
the selfish way out. And there is just so much stigma around it. Also, I have seen that a lot of clients are afraid to talk about it because they think if they even tiptoe around it, that we're going to like send them to the hospital, like against their will, sending them out. So I always make sure to clarify exactly what it is that we can talk about in a safe space, especially my teens, because, they're also worried about the whole mandated reporting aspect of it. So I make sure to tell them like where that cutoff is of when I would have to share something for their safety. And it does help because then they'll say like, yeah, sometimes I do think about dying. I don't have a plan. I don't have a way to do it. I don't have anything like that. But sometimes it crosses my mind that the world would be better without me. And if we can cut them off there and try to reframe, then that's what we're going for.
I appreciate you sharing that part because that's something that, I mean, I know even professionally, I used to think that like I was uncomfortable because I was like, oh, what's the next step? Oh my goodness. And it's not. There's so many, and the thought is to be that there's so many protective factors before it gets to that point, and being able to normalize that conversation and understand that it is a common thought, but thoughts are thoughts. It's when we're getting to a point of acting on them that it's no longer just a thought. And thoughts can come and go. And we're able to potentially put some safety measures in between that, or at least have some resources then.
And we can talk about ways that they can share on their own. So it hasn't reached the point where I need to break confidentiality, but we can talk about, I'll say, like, I really think you need to loop in. We'll say, like, I really think you need to loop mom in. And is that something that you might want to discuss how to bring this up or how to approach it with mom? Because I really feel like that would be a good step.
So some coaching or role play in how to have that conversation. Because again, it's an uncomfortable conversation. Goodness, it's so uncomfortable for kids. I know many times when I've talked to kids, like they don't want to hurt or upset the other people that are in their life, so they don't talk about it. And I always try to remind them that if they're going to be hurt and upset about the situation and the conversation to begin with, they're going to be much more upset if something more were to happen. So let's try and have that conversation now to prevent anything from happening further in the future.
But all my kids and teens know that when it comes down to it, their safety is number one to me. So I will take them being upset with me over not being with me at all.
Yeah.
So they do know that, but they know that it's a safe place. And also they know that I will never go behind their back and do something. So, I mean, there have been times where I have said like, this isn't something I can keep to myself. And then I give options. Like, I can't keep this to myself. Mom needs to be made aware. How do you want to approach this? Do you want to tell mom after you leave here and I can call her in 30 minutes to follow up and ensure that the conversation was had? Do you want me to talk to her privately, or do you want the three of us to talk together? So that might be something that I do, so that I give options as much as I possibly can. It's case by case, obviously. Yeah, just having those tough conversations.
Something that it just made me think of this, of being that trusted adult for someone might be or can make such a big impact. And we may not always have to do something or respond, kind of this be responsive, not responsible, but being able to be a go-to. I mean, I have friends that are teachers, friends that are therapists. They're those, identified trusted adults, but I think a lot of people that are having interactions with kids can be a trusted adult by just treating them well, letting them feel comfortable having a conversation. Maybe then they'll know that, wow, okay, that person didn't judge me. They didn't shut me down. They actually listened to me. If I have something bigger, maybe I'll then be able to talk to them about that, or confidence in talking to someone else too.
Yeah. My one suggestion though is, if you're going to be that person for anybody, do not lie to them. Like, do not set up unrealistic expectations. Please do not tell a kid you're going to keep a secret and then not keep a secret. I'm very upfront with my kids that I see. I don't ever tell them that, like, before they tell me something, if they're like, I need to tell you something, but you can't tell my mom, I will say, this sounds like a really good time to review confidentiality. But don't ever tell a kid you will keep a secret and then break it. Just tell them you might have to break it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sucks because you want them to talk to you, but Yeah. If you're that trusted adult, don't lose that trust. Because to this day, I've had to break confidentiality with a kid or a teen. I've never had them not come back.
Really?
Nope. I've never had them be so upset with me that they didn't come back. I've been worried about it.
Yeah.
But
I think that's so reassuring to hear is
Mhm.
because that's the fear. You
Yep.
know, I definitely think so. But in that same sense, it's going to do more damage if we are not truthful with them because they were truthful with us
Yeah.
about what's going on. Let's have that same respect.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Getting back on track.
What a great opportunity it was to be able to attend this and then also to be
Oh
able
my
to talk
gosh, I
about it.
know.
This was wonderful. I hope that more people have the opportunity to experience that presentation. So I think it would be so beneficial for more people to be able to experience the presentation.
Be
And
careful going if you're pregnant. You will cry at least twice. You will. You will.
but it just gave me such a different perspective. And this is something that I even, I probably have more experience or familiarity than some people who don't work in this field, who are not having this conversation. And it really took me by surprise. And I learned so much from it. I think it can be so beneficial.
Yeah. Overall, 10 out of 10 would definitely recommend. It was amazing. I hope they come back into the area, like literally anywhere within a radius. I will go see them. I would love to see how they talk to schools and talk to teens. So I'm following them on Facebook. If they come back to the area, I will be there. But they made a huge impact on me. So thank you.
Thank you. Me as well.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Let us know if this can be helpful to be able to have just more comfortable conversation around this. Please subscribe so you can hear us each week and let us know if there's any other topics or anything we can cover.
Yeah. Let us know if you've ever seen these guys in person and what your takeaway was. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, see you guys next time.
Thank you.